Coming up on Motor Driven this week, it's all rather surreal for me as Amanda McLaren takes me on a tour of the McLaren Technology Centre. Essentially unchanged since its launch back in 2010, is VW's uprated V6 a fitting swansong for the Amarok? And we caught up with the crew from Crewe as 2020 marked the end of an era for Bentley racing. Welcome to an all-new episode of Motor Driven, and I really am looking forward to powering into this week's episode. Now, last week we chatted to Tasman Pepper, so I thought why not continue the powerful woman in motoring theme. Last year I went to the McLaren Technology Centre, and while I was there I had the unbelievable privilege of spending time chatting to Amanda McLaren. What a great honour to have Amanda McLaren showing me around her workspace. This is work.
This is work.
Shame.
This is where I come
Shame.
most days of the week to actually work. And yes, it is a shame, you know. What a chore having to come into such a beautiful building with such a beautiful vista out there, and then to look at the cars around us.
You know what amazes me is, like, I'm used to, when you're producing cars, it's very much in an industrial space. But everything about this facility is actually just mind-blowing. The attention to detail, the design, you know, every shape is there to serve a purpose, much like the designing of the cars.
Well, that's absolutely right. Form equals function. And that's very true about this building as well. It was designed and engineered to showcase McLaren's expertise in those two things. But for example, the beautiful lake out here, it is wonderful to look at, but it serves a purpose. It is the cooling system for our wind tunnel.
Amanda, this must be the most difficult interview I've ever done, because I really am trying to pay attention to you and listen, but you can't help but just be drawn to memories, emotions. I mean, these are special cars.
Well, they are the real deal. They're the cars that Ayrton Senna raced in 1988, MP44 here. Still regarded as the most successful car in the history of the sport. Between them, Alan and Ayrton won 15 of the 16
Yeah,
races.
I mean, that was 88, wasn't it?
He's absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But I can just imagine the emotion that is there for people to get up close with those cars that their heroes drove. You know, it's.
Well,
I'm getting goosebumps.
It's
It's overwhelming, actually.
We've had gentlemen in tears touching the car that their hero drove, holding that same wheel as James Hunt or Ayrton Senna or Kimi Räikkönen, and it's really quite something just to be a part of that and remember that, yes, these are actually the genuine cars.
For them to have you here telling that story is also unbelievable. It's a masterstroke, because that tie back to heritage, to where it all started, when your dad, you know, had an idea to go racing, to tinker around, and yeah, we have it. I mean, we're walking past the first cars they won the championship with. It's just so many stories. It's unbelievable.
What my father started still continues today. One of only two Formula One teams that were racing in the 60s. Red Italian won the other one.
Yeah, we won't talk about that.
We don't mention that name in here. But my father, of course, was always planning to produce road cars as the next big thing. So what Automotive are doing is fulfilling that vision and dream that he had.
But it must be incredible for you to see that. You know, were your dad around today, I think he'd be really proud, because that engineering and design ethos is still at the forefront of everything McLaren does.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be here today, fantastic though the building is, amazing what the three companies within the McLaren Group are doing, if I didn't think my father would be proud. His design and engineering philosophy created fast cars, but based on being very, very light. And that's exactly the same, what we call the McLaren DNA, that runs through everything we do as a company today. So he would be genuinely delighted, not only that his name is still out there at the forefront, but also the way we are doing what it is we're doing.
Hanging on to that heritage is critical, because that's a unique story. That's what people buy into. But having you involved in that, we talk women in motoring and women in motorsport, you know, it's almost like people forget how involved women were in the beginning. I mean, think of your mom in those days. she wasn't just the wife.
Well, absolutely. I mean, women back, especially sort of through the 60s when my mother was so involved, she and Dad shared the driving from home to all of the European circuits. She made sure that everything was packed, and when they got there, all the team members had what they needed. And then once they started testing and racing, who did all the lap scoring and all the timekeeping? The women. My mother was, it is said, one of the best at basically following 4 or 5 cars with all the stopwatches and keeping all the records.
Isn't there a story that in one of the races the timekeeping was down and they actually went to her?
They did. They did.
She also founded an organisation.
My mother was instrumental in founding a club called the Women's Motor Racing Associates Club, or the Doghouse for short. And that was initially set up really as a benevolent society because, sadly, racing was so dangerous. So many of the husbands and boyfriends were killed driving. So my mother was an initial founding member and went on to become chair of it. And I'm now patron of that association, which thankfully has moved away from needing to be a benevolent fund to being a club for women in motorsport, because today we have far more women drivers, women involved in design and engineering, and moving forward, I think, at some point the scales will balance out.
You talk about the dangers of motorsport. I mean, this was like Apollo missions. I mean, at the same time, there was no easy way to test things. You had ideas. Let's try this. If it doesn't work, there's some serious risk. There was no simulation for it. You tested it by strapping yourself in, having a go. And I think we don't want to ever forget that, because I think that is what makes the commitment and the passion of someone like your dad, living his dream to the full. I know there was such a beautiful story about, it's not how long you live for, but it's the value of what you put in your time, and that really sums him up.
Well, absolutely. Life is measured in achievement, not in years alone, which really summed up. He wrote that as an epitaph for his teammate who had been killed, Timmy Mayer, and that became his own epitaph. But you're absolutely right. I mean, some of the features on this car, for example, the very high wings. An aeroplane wing, upside down, it's going to create downforce. But how did they actually measure the downforce created by this? They put it in the back of a minivan and actually put bathroom scales underneath the down struts.
You're kidding.
And the mechanics sat in the back watching the bathroom scales as it went up and down the motorway. Now, we have moved on a little since those days, but the
super
way
creative.
Well, absolutely. And the way we do things today, yes, we have new technologies and ways of doing it, but that attention to detail has not changed. So, for example, over the bodywork of this car, where the rivets on the bodywork, you see they're capped and painted over, so you get smooth, clean airflow over that body. Over the wings, where you just want to create a little more turbulence to give you downforce and grip, the rivets are left open. This car has actually got the nickname the Thursday car because it only ever appeared in public once, and that was for the practice for the Monaco Grand Prix in 1969. And at the end of the practice, the governing body of Formula One had banned the high front wings, so we had to take it off.
No way.
So she's called the Thursday car for that reason. It
makes you realise just how clever they were in terms of finding a solution for a problem. You were chatting to me earlier about the nose design, and that's a unique feature they've carried through.
Well, that's right. I mean, it came about, my father was testing a car that didn't have the nostrils in the nose. And they'd gone into the pits and refueled the car. And the fuel filler cap had not clicked down properly. So as my father drove out of the pits, it was bumping. And he thought, well, as I go faster, the air pressure over the nose of the car will click that down.
Didn't happen.
But it didn't. It bumped. The faster he went, the more. And my father understood aerodynamics, and he drove back into the pits, got out of the car, and found a pair of tin snips or tin shears and cut a big jagged hole in the nose of the car. And apparently some of the mechanics thought that, he'd really lost the plot at that point and kind of, Bruce, what are you doing? And he's like, no, it's okay. He went out, did some more laps, and then came back in. And the mechanic doing the timing said, wow, that's incredible. how much more quickly you're going. Why did you come in? And Bruce said, I can no longer see where I'm going because all this hot air was just coming straight at him. So, as you can see on this car, that they actually sort of channeled the car around the sides. But that's a feature that is so common in today's
It's all aerodynamics.
cars. It's all about aerodynamics and just airflow through and over the car.
See, pioneering thought.
Absolutely, and that's very much Dad. You know, he was very much an innovator, but he was willing to embrace new materials as well. Bruce McLaren Motor Racing were the first racing company to use a composite material which had come from the aerospace industry called malite, and that was about making the cars more rigid
And lighter.
and make them lighter too. And of course, moving forward to 1980, McLaren International were the first company to use carbon fibre for the chassis of their car. So lots of similarities all the way through the history of McLaren.
It's a different era now. You know, your dad was driving, managing, engineering, fixing, coming up with ideas. You know, now there's a team of people that do it, and the driver is just the driver. It's never going to happen again.
Well, that's absolutely right. I mean, Dad was the youngest Grand Prix winner for over 40 years, winner at Le Mans, also running the team, designing and building the cars. Tell me anybody else who's achieved all that. So yes, he was jack of all trades, but he was absolutely master of them as well. We are the best in the world at so many things, following those same principles that my father created.
I guess just briefly, we worked very hard. Getting beaten last year was about the best thing that could have happened to us in a way, because it got just everyone we had working as hard as they could go, and I guess this is the result.
50 years back, actually, if you think GT, you got to drive the GT back at, I think, 2015 it was at Revival.
At the Goodwood Revival.
Yeah.
So
Scary.
it's probably the most frightening thing I've ever done in my life. I was absolutely delighted when I received the email asking me to drive it. And there was this period of elation, and it wasn't until I actually saw the car, and then I got in the car. And the seat had been moved from the original position when my father had it, quite a way back.
No way
and
you
it was
can reach the
fixed.
pedals.
So the pedals are about a foot away from where my feet are. Managed to find some pillows and some cushions. And now I'm
Talk
on
about-
the edge
talk
of
about
the
engineering.
seat with it all wedged behind me. I could now reach the pedals. Now there were two problems. The windscreen is right here and my nose is almost pressed up against it. And the steering wheel's right here. And now I'm trying to press the clutch in. And
Legs
I'm
like
pressing
this.
as hard as I can, and I can only press it in halfway. How people like my father and Denny Holm drove these cars in a race for the length of time and at the speeds they did, because that M6 GT road car was basically an M6 Can-Am car with the roof made road legal. First time I'm actually going to start this car up and pull away.
And
He's
everyone's
on the dummy
watching.
grid with everybody watching. The story had gone around the paddock at Goodwood that Bruce McLaren's car is here, so people had come to see it, and then, oh, Bruce McLaren's daughter's driving it. Oh, let's go and have a look. And it took every ounce of willpower I had not to get out of that car and say, I can't do it. Subsequently, I'm so glad I did. It's actually the first McLaren car I ever drove.
Wow.
Which was really very significant and probably one of the greatest moments of my life, with such mixed emotions.
Well, you're on the circuit where your dad passed away.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's, yeah, wow.
Really quite something, a very special moment, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite emotional just thinking about what you would have gone through on that. It's unbelievable. And now they're bringing out a GT.
So many design features on that.
That
are
photograph
so
you
similar.
showed me is it's nuts. I mean, that rear three-quarter, that flank shot on the
same.
glass,
It's the same. You know, the way you design a car that's going to pierce the air and be very quick doesn't change. And you know, the rear haunch of Dad's car, the rear haunch of our GT today, it's almost the same.
Amanda, we could literally keep talking all day because I just find it so interesting. But thank you for your time. I mean, this has been it's an unbelievable experience and treat. And just, you feel the emotion just sitting and talking to you. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
I think every racing driver likes the opportunity now and then to be able to come right to the back of the field. It's a great way. You just forget about anything going wrong with the car and just stand on it. And I must say I enjoyed it for a long time.
Listening to her sharing her stories and surrounded by those cars, yeah, it was a pretty surreal and emotional moment for me, and one that I'll never forget. So thank you so much for that, Amanda. Now, I told you this week's show is a power show, and it's got a lot to do with our feature car this week, the beast that is the VW Amarok V6. 2020 will forever be etched into our minds and into the history books as the year that the world as we know it changed forever. For bakkie and pickup owners, their world changed back in 2010 when VW introduced the Amarok. Yes, I know that's a pretty bold statement to make, but let's be honest, the industry was turned on its head by the Amarok because it came out with car-like ride quality and comfort. It introduced safety features like off-road ABS and vehicle stability control. And of course, there were those small capacity turbo engines. Now, in celebration of the Amarok being available for 10 years, Volkswagen South Africa introduced this, the Beast, the most powerful double cab bakkie you can buy. Yep, crazy, I know. Launch control in a bakkie, it is nuts. I mean, think about it, your sheep, the hay bales, your stock, it's all going to go flying out the back. Well, actually, no, come to think of it, that's probably not going to happen because the Amarok is no longer a traditional workhorse, is it? It's totally geared up for lifestyle and, would you believe it, performance. The interesting thing, this review, you're going to be more interested in information like the fact that it gallops to 107.6 seconds and that it tops out at 207 kilometers an hour than the fact that the Amarok has the largest and the widest load area in the segment. The fact that you can also fit a pallet between the two wheels. No other bakkie that is currently sold in the market can do that. Things really have changed. Crazy, crazy world we live in. So Volkswagen have streamlined things. There are only two engines available in the double cab segment. You've got the entry-level 2-litre 4-cylinder bi-turbo diesel engine, or of course this, the all-new 190 kilowatt 3-litre V6 diesel. It does replace the previous 165 kilowatt engine, but as you can see visually, yeah, not much has changed. It is so funny not to wax lyrical about styling, but come on, you guys have had 10 years to have a good look at the Amarok. You know what is impressive though for me is that it's remained relatively unchanged in that time. It tells you just what a stellar job the design team did with this, their very first pickup. The only thing that you see here that is not standard on the Highline Amarok would be these optional 19-inch Milford alloys. Milford? Milford? Ford. It's pretty interesting, eh? Now apparently the Amarok has the largest cabin in the segment, but you'll never say that when you get into the back. This is my driving position right here and it leaves me with very little leg room. I also find that you sit super vertically, so not going to be comfortable in a long run. The seats themselves aren't bad and the headroom is pretty good as well, but it's amazing, you know, you're sitting in the back of a car that costs this much money and no air vents, so no climate control for your comfort in the back, and there's one 12-volt charger only. So it would seem they've saved all the roominess for the passengers up front, because I've got no complaints from a space and comfort perspective. And what I do love is the driving position is really good as well. Now, it's something I've always said with VW. I love their interiors because it's clean and uncluttered. But let's be honest, this is also where the Amarok is now really starting to show its age when you look at its competitors. The dash is a very traditional, old school analog layout. If you look from a connectivity perspective as well, yeah, it's awesome that we can pair our smartphones. They've got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, but up front there's only one USB. The rest is 12-volt chargers. And then of course this touchscreen, when you look at it now, it starts feeling very 2010, dwarfed compared to the competitors. But at the end of the day, these are all going to be the big significant changes you are going to see when the new Amarok comes out in 2022. Obviously the big talking point here is the engine, and it really is brilliant. The previous V6 was. This is even better. The kilowatts are up by 25, the newton meters up by 30 to 580 newton meters. And what is going to come in handy when you're on the open road and you're wanting to do some overtaking is that there is a 10-second overboost, which pushes the kilowatts up to 200. The 8-speed transmission I've always really loved, and the pairing with this more powerful engine is just brilliant. Changes are seamless, they're almost intuitive, and I think that really is the strength of the Amarok, along with the fact that I still think this is the best driving bakkie on the market. We felt that in 2010 when it first came out. It set a new benchmark for how bakkies should behave on-road and off-road, and it's unchanged now. And that is whether you are buying the 2-litre, the baby in the class, or you're in the big beast that we're in. What is important for me as well is that we do have disc brakes all around, because you know it's one thing getting 2 tons up to speed, it's a totally different story trying to get it to stop. Wow, what a machine, what an engine. You literally do forget that you are flying on by in a bakkie. It's actually quite nuts. But I do really struggle with the price. You have 2 V6 options. The Highline at 922,000 Rand includes the heavy-duty leaf springs, while the Extreme with the Napa leather, the 20-inch alloys and the Discover Pro media system is going to set you back, well, let's just call it $1 million. As it is, I really do struggle getting my head around the pricing of standard double cabs, especially when you consider, honestly, it's a space at the back that you're only occasionally using. Now you're dropping a bar. Wow, seems nuts, eh? But I guess here's some positive spin. The fact that Ford will now be producing the new Amarok in 2022 might mean that this becomes a future classic, especially if the rumors are true that this brilliant engine is not going to be carried across, but that Ford in fact will be producing their own V6. But let's talk about the Ford-VW partnership. I mean, it makes complete sense for me from a business perspective, but I do have one genuine concern, and that is around the build quality. But VW have assured us that whatever rolls off the production line in 2022 is going to be according to their quality standards. So I guess all we can do is wait and see. But if you can afford it, it's quite funny. This is impossible to beat. Certainly interesting times ahead as Ford are gearing up now for the all-new Amarok in 2022. Speaking of interesting times, we caught up with the Bentley Boys when they were in South Africa for the Kyalami 9-hour. Off track, but on course. With the announcement that Bentley's factory-led GT3 program will come to an end this season, we went driving with the M Sport Crewe leading the championship charge, just on a different course.
I'll put it in anyway. Does it feel the wrong hand or what?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
What I'm about to do yet.
I'm really relieved that this year's event isn't happening in November, because if you remember last year, the Bentley Boys are quite a colourful bunch and they arrived wearing full Movember tashes. Golf is what they do in their part-time, and I'm pretty scared to see what they're going to be dressed like because they're quite colourful characters. But what's quite cool, we've actually organised Royal Johannesburg and Kensington Country Club. Chris, I'm going to love this. Your surname?
Bentley, believe it or not.
These little choppers all claim to be the Bentley Boys, and yeah, we've got an actual Bentley boy. Hello,
They
guys.
get the real thing today.
They get the
How are
real.
you?
They get the real thing.
Hello.
I can see one golf player, yeah, for sure. The real deal. Max, you ready?
Always. New challenge.
Guys, have you played here before?
Yeah,
Jordan?
I used to play here when I was a kid actually. A lot of like school tournaments, so home track advantage.
Okay, we've got a couple of challenges lined up for them. What I find quite interesting, we know they are all drivers, but I want to see who's got a short game. So I've got a couple of challenges. We're going to do a little putting challenge off the tee, and also a little a chip, see who's got the good feel. Just to warm up for winning the title this weekend.
I'm gonna have to Google everything, I think. Off the tee.
How to chip, how to hit a tee shot. Wow! I've got a shot then.
Okay, you hit it.
Oh my god!
So one goes left, one goes right. Max, you going down the middle.
True.
Huh?
I need help here.
So, look, I need to help the dad. Oh my god. So you take the ball. Là, comme ça. Vas-y, mets-toi en face. You put the ball close to the front feet, stance a bit wider.
Comme ça.
Voilà. Et là, tu joues.
I think it's gonna go that way. Can I move a bit this way?
Yeah.
Can he see?
Mets-toi un petit peu penché, tu sais,
Never
flapper
played
comme
golf
ça,
in
tu sais,
his
un
life.
petit peu tonique.
This is his first shot.
Yeah.
Okay.
First shot in his life.
Nice!
Hey! Not far, but
Max, you've won. You won the first challenge because none of them are on the fairway. Yours is on the wrong
You say
fairway.
longest.
No,
guys,
you say longest,
Yeah,
otherwise
but
we
longest
hit.
you've always got to be within the boundary. You
Ah,
playing
fair
on-
play,
you-
fair
you
play, fair
playing
play.
on the
Okay,
other-
okay, okay.
That was good. Nobody would have bet on that.
Nice.
my arm hurts.
That's his done. His golf is done. Now, he may be new to golf, but Maxime Soleil has been with the Crewe team the longest. Oh, jeez.
It's not too bad, huh?
But, I mean, you've never hit a bloody golf ball in your life. I thought they were joking.
No.
But you've hit two sweet ones.
Probably
But
luck.
they are now stressing. Has anything changed, Max, now that you are a dad? And I mean,
I'm drinking wine.
drinking wine a lot. I don't mean like you're not getting sleep and all that crazy stuff. From a driving perspective, do you find yourself like, I don't know, maybe thinking about things a bit more?
To be honest, I was scared about it. There's a saying a kid is 1 second. And I was thinking about it all the time while my girlfriend was pregnant, and I was like, if I'm 1 second slower, my career is over, you know? And then obviously Bathurst happened, and we won. So, and I think...
That was it. No, you don't worry about it.
No, I don't worry about it, and I think it's quite a fake story, to be
Yeah.
honest.
It's actually quite cool because, I mean, Max has never played golf before, so it's actually been awesome to see how they're all helping him and encouraging him. And I think it's a good bonding session for them as well. Usually he would just come along and drive, do what he normally does. Oh, very, very good. I mean, that is perfect feel, eh?
Thank you.
Direction's a bit off.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want it to start first.
Yeah, no, no.
You want a marker
No,
to
we'll
mark
see.
it? Because
If
maybe...
they- well, you know, he won't come close.
Down, down.
He saw the line.
Whoa, shot!
Okay, so that's a nice thing. Max, you've seen where to hit it now, eh?
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah.
Honestly.
Jamie Boston.
Oh
eh?
my
Oh, it
God.
fell out my pocket, sorry. That's better. That's really, really good.
Get in.
That's brilliant.
Good job, Mac.
Even though you had 2 attempts, I think you've won that one as well, eh?
I think so.
Golf's easy going for Max.
Yeah, Max is a pro. Full of flair and energy, Jules Gounon is a colourful character. And after his antics on course, we also dubbed him the Zola Bud of golf. Woo! Oh, brilliant. Your highlight has to be this year.
Yeah.
Bathurst 2020.
The weekend started really badly. We break an engine on FP3, we don't drive. We go into Super Pole with no preparation, anything. We don't make Super Pole. We were P11, first of the non-Super Pole guys.
Jordan had a great start
Jordan
in that stint.
As
that
usual,
first stint was
as
mad.
usual, was crazy. So we came back to the field. Then Max had an amazing double stint before me. He came to the lead, pulled a gap, and then I went in the car. And yeah, obviously the year before they were also leading with car 8, and something happened, so they didn't win. So I felt a lot the pressure, and I remember the word from Malcolm Winson, that is our boss, and he's a big name, a legend of Motorsport, and he grabbed my forearm, he said, "Don't." And I was on the helmet, getting ready into the car. I was like, okay, my stomach went.
A well-earned victory, a fan favourite, the V8 twin-turbo 4-litre Bentley Continental. We had all kinds of weather around us, lightning, but the thunder belongs to the guys from Crewe and from M Sport as Bentley wins on the mountain. The Empire strikes back for the British brand, and Jules Gounon is remarkably happy.
That's a good shot.
Bloody
There
hell.
you go.
Pressure's on, boy.
It's long.
Oh,
Oh,
great
nice.
shot.
Not bad.
No, listen.
Nice.
Listen, without a practice shot, he just steps up. I
Yeah.
think I feel a bit wrong. I don't, boink.
Let's see
He's
who
a
wins
ringer.
this one.
I'm telling you. Yours, Jordan.
Finally, you can win
Hey.
something.
Very, very nice. Win something? Jordan Pepper has won most things on track and the hearts of South African racing fans. People don't think about the exhaustion side of things and actually getting rid of lactic acid, like you said.
Yeah, especially, and imagine there's 3 of us, obviously, and when you'll see all of us share the same seat, but we're not the same person.
Yeah.
So when we mold the seat, we try to have a happy compromise, but one of us probably ends up having like my general issue is I always get like a sore neck, left shoulder type thing, and also your legs when you're pushing the brake pedal 120 bar all the time for 3 hours, 10 times a lap. It gets quite stressful, you know. So you definitely, everyone laughs like, oh, rugby's probably a sport that needs physio, or cricket because they're like stretching all the time and like fast bursts running into the pit, into like bowl or something like that. And racing's just, yeah, we all drive to work and back every day. But you can imagine when it's so physical that it's quite a big help. And I never was actually a fan of it because I thought, nah, I'm strong, you know. And the first 24-hour event I did, after my like 3rd double stint, I was like, if I don't have something done to me now, I'm not going to be able to get back in the car.
People don't realize in the endurance races as well in the beginning, how do you shut down? Because it's like a full on, and you've just got out of a car, you're on edge, hyped up, adrenaline's pumping. Now they tell you you've got to go and sleep and rest because you're doing a next stint in 5 hours or whatever it is. How do you shut down from that? Because you must, I mean, in the beginning you said you wanted to watch what was going on, but now you trust your teammates.
Yeah, especially when you've got 2 teammates as good as Jules and Max, who you know when they get in the car, they're going to give it 100%, you know. You never know what's going to happen, but you hope obviously for the best. You've got the team, you have to trust what they do on the strategy side of things. And the more you can wind down, I don't normally fall asleep, but I at least close my eyes and just try rest. It's really, like, it plays like a real important role because you have to be the sharpest at the end because that's when the fight is on, you know, because it's a 24-hour sprint race and it always comes down to the last hour or 2 where you go all in, and that's actually when you've got to drive at your best. So if you slightly fatigued, slightly tired, haven't eaten correctly, etc., then it plays a big role. So, and it all starts from not just start of race, it starts from the beginning of the week, hydration, everything build up through the week. So it's amazing how
Is this part of the build up for the I said to you how competitive these guys are, and they're coming up with challenges. They've come up with another one. Explain how this works. Is it putting a speed factor to golf? Why am I not surprised that racing drivers want to go as quickly around the golf course as possible? What are we doing?
Firstly, before we start here, we need 4 members. So as long as you're happy to join our team.
Yeah, we're never going to win or finish it, so we'll break the Guinness records. They don't even phone the buggers. What do we do?
Par 4, play it in the quickest possible time. So we're going to leave Jewel to hit off the tee. I'm going to hit the approach shot in, and then it's up to you and Max to finish, basically.
Right down the middle.
Get close! Get close!
Here he comes, incoming. This is good. On the fairway.
Where?
Yeah. On the fairway. Oh. Go. Play the putter. Play the putter.
No.
Hey?
No.
Go. That's a great shot.
Whoa!
That's a great shot.
Let's go.
Let me not cock this up.
Yay!
How good was your shot?
That one was good.
Great second shot. And the drive, eh? Hey, that was flippin' unbelievable. But you've got to see his shot. You've got to see his shot.
Was he good?
He putted with a pitching wedge from there and put it right next to the pin. I promise you. Okay, well done, boys.
So that was good.
That was lekker.
That was lekker. We're going to win.
We're gonna do everything for it.
Be a nice way to close that chapter, eh?
It will be a perfect way to close the chapter.
Start the year, finish the year.
Exactly.
Cheers. We
Cheers.
drink to that, man.
Yeah, true.
That's it. The end of an era for the Crewe from Crewe, and going out in flames is certainly not how the Bentley M Sport team would have wanted to have signed out, but I can guarantee you those 3 brilliant racing drivers, you'll see them in action this year. Right, that's it. The end of another motor-driven show. Next week is our final episode of our first season, and this is what you can look forward to. Next week on Motor Driven, we go racing in 2021 as the first event of the year, the Dakar Rally, wraps up. Motoring brands, they are a-changing as both Kia and GM unveil their new logos. I finally get behind the wheel of the award-winning Land Rover Defender, and I take you into Aston Martin Works for the continuation of a classic.